So what you're looking at is my 46 Dodge truck with a hole in my Dakota frame that I have it sitting on. And I didn't realize there was a hole up there, but most of this frame was covered with oil and transmission fluid because it had leaks, but unfortunately that spot wasn't. And then when I started digging around, I found more metal in there than what it looked like came out of the hole, so I don't know where all the metal come from. So I'm going to have to check the whole frame out now and see where there's any other thin spots and then fix that spot.
So I hit this thing with the hammer a little bit, and then I went over it with a needle scaler, and I found these holes. And then I went over it with a drill bit, an 1/8 inch drill bit, until I found some pretty good material. And so the edge of this is fairly reasonably thick. And then I cut that out, and I could get my hand back in there and feel that it was pretty much 1/8 of an inch, except for right there where this extrusion is. And I made a piece and put it in there. And then the next thing is to, I'm going to put this over top of everything. And I'm going to do that on both sides, regardless of it, if it needs it or not, just to really stiffen it up. And so now I have to do, once I was inside of it, I could see that there was some rust spots on the other side. So I need to probably cut about this much out of the other side, and then I got to redo the bottom. And so I had to take the engine out in order to do all that. And I got a bunch of other stuff I got to do, like the firewall and the bracket. So this bracket for the steering, I had cut it off and redid it because it was at a little bit of a bad angle once I relocated my cab. So I have to do some welding on that while the engine's out. And then all this spot on the firewall all the way around the whole entire thing. So there's some work to be done. And then another thing I have to do is put some blocks in the frame down here to bolt this bumper support on. So a lot of work to do while the thing's all apart. Okay, you can see the frame and where I cut out the bottom of the frame and the side of the frame. I already showed you I replaced that. This is where the hole had been, where it started to see the problem. And the edges of this are pretty solid, so I got 1/8 of an inch. And then I'm trying to make this piece, that's the bottom. Basically I made that out of 1/8 inch pieces that I beat over my vise. I don't have a brake press, so I just made some angles. Then I cut the tops of that off, because you have to have something to put in the vise to bend it. And that gives me a nice rounded edge, so it's pretty similar to this rounded edge here. And then I'll weld those all in on the bottom. That'll replace all this bad metal. Okay, so I'm using this piece as more or less a template, and I cut it so that I have the radius sticking out all the way around. I put it on the other side. That's how I found where the radius was. That way I can trim this extra metal off left over from when I fixed that side, and everything will look similar to the way it does on both sides. I don't have to repair the other side. The other side actually had a lot of oil inside the frame, so this is the only side I have to repair. You can see that I made the piece for the bottom. I already did the other side on the bottom, and then I tacked in this side and then the bottom on this side. Okay, you can see I welded the bottom on and I ground it all off, so you pretty much can't tell what I did other than a little bit of dips in the weld. So this is the plate that I welded on the passenger side, and I did that exact same thing on the driver's side too. So I added these 2 holes, one on each side, because before the bolts were like pointing at each other, and so now they're passing each other. I welded these caps on, welded those caps on. I finished another weld on this thing. This is the piece that holds the bumper up, the sway bar on, the radiator on, and holds the whole front end up. So then I also made some mounts on the frame for this. So you can see this nut right here, this 1/2 inch coupling nut. I took that and I drilled a little bit of thread out of there, about 1/4 inch, and I ground the outside, got rid of all the plating. Then I drilled some holes in here, and then one up underneath here, and did the same thing on both sides. And I put those in and I welded them all the way around. So that gives me 3 1/2 inch bolts per side to hold that front frame on. So lastly, I bought this starter, and I don't know if I have it backwards. Maybe I do. Hopefully I can flip it over 180 degrees and it won't hit off my header. But you can see the size of this other starter down here, which is gigantic. It's off a motorhome, and it actually fit. And so now all of a sudden it's hitting. So I'm hoping that I can just flip that over and do whatever I have to do to make it fit, because that one works for an 18-to-1 compression motor, and it costs a lot of money, and it's nice and small. So that's it for now. Bye.